Okay, so the long anticipated open weight models from OpenAI are here, and these are pretty incredible. So this video is going to be all about these two models. The first one is 120 billion parameter. The second one is 20 billion. So the good thing is that you can run the smaller model on a laptop or a desktop with consumer grade hardware. For the bigger one, you probably need a high-end GPU like H100. So this video is going to be all about these models, what people are saying, and some of my first impressions. Both of them are under Apache 2.0. They're specifically designed for agentic tasks, seems to be good at coding, tool usage, and they are reasoning or thinking models. You also have the control on whether you want low, medium, or high reasoning efforts, which is very similar to what we have seen from other models from OpenAI, like O4 and O3 series. Since these are open weight models, you can run them locally, you have full access to the chain of thought. So I think it's going to be really great to see how these models actually think. You can try the demo. We're going to have a look at this. It's already available on Ollama, so I just downloaded the weights. We're going to test those as well in this video. But some very interesting benchmarks in this main blog post. In terms of performance, I would say the GPT open source or open weight 120 billion is very close to O4 mini on a number of different key areas. I'll show you some of the examples later in the video. Then they talk about safety standards for open weight models. Safety is foundation to the open source models from OpenAI, or actually open weight models. I keep saying open source. And I think this was one of the reasons that they delayed, or at least they said that they delayed the initial release of the models. Now, the great thing where I think we really need to congratulate OpenAI, they've worked very closely with all the major players in open source space. So the model can be used on day one on Ollama, Llama CPP, LM Studio. It's available through a number of different API providers, which is pretty awesome, right? And I'll show you how to run this on your local machine. There's already support in transformers. We're going to look at Ollama. If you want to run it on VLLM, it's also available over there. In fact, they release a number of different cookbooks. So for example, how do you fine tune this model, how to handle the raw chain of thought, right? So there are a number of really helpful blog posts and cookbooks that they have released with it. Pretty incredible work from OpenAI. Seems like they are going from closed AI to finally OpenAI. And the model weights are already out on Hugging Face. You can access both of them. So for example, if you look here, you'll be able to run them. So for the 120 billion, as I said, you can run this on a single H100. For the 20 billion, you can run it on a computer with 16 gigabytes of VRAM. Now, there are some interesting things in terms of how they trained the model. So they used floating point precision of 4-bit. That means some of the newer GPUs are going to be able to handle the model. For the older ones, you might see a small performance degradation. Okay, so this is a more detailed blog post where they basically go into a lot more details. So I'll just quickly highlight some of the stuff. As I mentioned before, you need 80 gigabytes of VRAM for running the bigger model, 16 gigabytes for running the smaller model. Both of them are reasoning models, so you will have access to the raw chain of thought. Now, they follow the format of responses API, and that means that they're going to be great at using agentic tools. And the good thing is, I think it also follows the capabilities similar to O3, where it can use these tools during a chain of thought, which is pretty awesome. In terms of pre-training, they have used a very similar setup to how they pre-train their more advanced proprietary models, which is pretty good to see. Now, in terms of the actual parameters, these are a mixture of experts. So even though the model, let's say, is 120 billion per token, only about 5 billion parameters are active, right? So it's a sparse MOE. For the 20 billion model, only about 3.6 billion parameters are active, which means that you can run this with a much smaller memory footprint compared to a dense model. Another thing that is going to be interesting to folks is the context length. So currently it supports up to 128,000 tokens context window. But I think there will be people who might be able to push it because it's already using the rotary positional embeddings. We'll have to see, but 128,000 tokens is a really good context length to start with. So as I said, these are sparse MOEs. For the bigger 120 billion, there are 128 experts. For the smaller, there are 32 experts. It's mainly trained on English text-only data set, so it's not multimodal, but their focus was STEM, coding, and general knowledge. And one more thing, they are using the same tokenizer as O4 Mini and GPT-4o. They're calling it O200K Harmony. So you will need to be very careful about the tokenization process and the prompt format that goes into the model. If you don't set that up correctly, you're going to start running into issues. So forced training, they say they followed a similar process used for GPT-4o Mini, including a supervised fine-tuning stage and RL stage with high compute. Now, seems like the same team that is training these proprietary models at OpenAI have trained the same model, right? So we're going to see similarities between both the capabilities and I would also say the features that this model is going to offer. And that's why they say by using the same techniques as our state-of-the-art proprietary reasoning models, the models demonstrate exceptional capabilities after post-training. And we already talked about these three different reasoning efforts, but you can set the reasoning effort within the system message. This is pretty incredible because you can just tell the model what level of reasoning efforts to use. Now, they have provided a number of different benchmarks. I'm going to just quickly go through some of the interesting ones, especially the code-related ones. One thing you will notice is that the 120 billion model with tool usage is usually pretty close to O4 Mini. So on this one, I think O4 Mini performs better than O3. But if you look at the other ones, you can see that the performance is very consistent between these two models. This also shows you the potential size of O4 Mini model. So my suspicion would be it's probably around 130, 140 billion parameters. And O4 Mini also seems to be an MOE. O3 is probably much bigger on a scale of 200 to 250 billion parameters, right? So but that's just a speculation on my end, right? And as I said, you will consistently see that 120 billion is on par or and sometimes better than O4 Mini. Here's the computation math. On mathematics, all of these models perform pretty consistently and close to each other, which is very interesting. Okay, then PhD level science questions, MMLU, right? Now, these benchmarks are good to look at for quick comparison, but the real test is going to be when you put them in your own test bench and test them on your own applications. But one thing that they are highlighting is the agentic capabilities. So again, the 120 billion model is very close to the O4 Mini. Okay, one more thing. Test time scaling works with these models as well, right? So here's an example of Amy. If you increase the reasoning effort plus the number of tokens that are being generated at test time, you still see a consistent increase in performance, which is pretty incredible. Here's the same thing on GPQA. The good thing is that we see this behavior across both of the models. Then they talk about chain of thought. Now, they say that the recent research shows that monitoring a reasoning model's chain of thought can be helpful for detecting misbehavior as long as the model was not trained with direct supervision for aligning the chain of thought. This perspective is shared by others in industry as well. In line with our principle, since launching OpenAI O1 preview, we did not put any direct supervision on the chain of thought for either open source models or open weight models. We believe this is critical to monitor model misbehavior, deception, and misuse. So you could actually look at the chain of thought. This will help you figuring out if the model is misbehaving, right? And it's really good that OpenAI is keeping the open model chain of thought open. Okay, then they talk about the safety and worst case fine-tuning work, right? So then they talk about their preparedness framework. Now, this is actually important, right? Safety is critical. So they are hosting a red teaming challenge to encourage researchers, developers, and enthusiasts from around the world to help identify novel safety issues. The challenge has 500,000 prize fund that will be awarded based on the review from a panel of experts judging from OpenAI and other leading labs, right? The main thing is when the model is out, as in this case, there's no control that OpenAI is going to have on the weights, right? So it's good to see these red teaming efforts, both to figure out what are the actual capabilities of these models and then what are some novel safety issues, right? So I actually really appreciate OpenAI not only releasing the model, but then have this red teaming contest for the community to contribute. Okay, so the weights are already available and it's natively quantized in that MX 4-bit floating point precision. Again, as I said, it's following this harmony prompt format. This is something that you will need to make sure. I hope when they were working with other partners, they are actually following that by default. Okay, they are also releasing some of the implementations for running inference with PyTorch and on Apple Metal platform. So this is good, right? Okay, and the partners include Hugging Face, VLLM, Ollama, Llama CPP, LM Studio, AWS Fireworks, Together AI, Bastin, Databricks, Vercel, Cloudflare. And then in terms of the hardware, we work with the industry leaders, including NVIDIA, AMD, Cerebras, and Grok to ensure optimized performance across a range of systems. And actually, I'm seeing that almost everybody that is mentioned on this list have day one support, which is pretty incredible. So this was a very well-organized release for an open weight model. Okay, at the end, they talk about why open models matter. So releasing gpt-oss models mark a significant step forward for open weight models. At their sizes, these models deliver meaningful advancements in both reasoning capabilities and safety. Open weight or open models complement our hosted models, giving developers a wide range of tools to accelerate leading edge research, foster innovation, and enabling safer and transparent AI development. And then they talk about that these being lower barrier for emerging markets, resource-constrained sectors, and smaller organizations that may lack the budget or flexibility or to adopt proprietary models, right? Now, we need to give credit to Chinese companies. I think they really pushed everybody, especially after DeepSeek K2 and some incredible releases from Quinn. And now I hope we're going to be seeing more open releases from Frontier Labs in the US. Not only OpenAI, Google has been doing a really good job at it. Hopefully Anthropic might also join and release some of the open weight models. So I think future is going to be pretty bright for open weight models. Okay, enough talk. Let's test the model out. I think I should be able to even run this within UI. Okay, so this is the new UI from Ollama. So I have selected that 20 billion model. Support for this is going to be coming to localgpt as well. So let's say if we say hi, I'm running this on M2 Max with 96 gigabytes of VRAM. That means it probably is going to take some time in loading the model and then generating the response, right? So it thought for a few seconds, or actually less than a second. Okay, let me see. I'm gonna ask it, tell me about yourself. Okay, so I'm ChatGPT, a conversational AI built on OpenAI's GPT-4 architecture. I'm designed to understand and generate language, so I can help you with a wide range of task answering questions, brainstorm ideas, right? So pretty neat. Okay, so I'm going to create a more detailed video on testing this model. But in this video, I just wanted to give you a quick overview of what was released today and how to get started with this. So keep an eye out for localgpt release with this open weight model. There is a blog post from OpenAI and NVIDIA with how did they train the model. And also a lot of people are posting on it, right? So I'll create a more detailed video on testing the model. It's already available on Grok, OpenRouter as well. On Grok, it gets an incredible 1200 tokens per second for the 20 billion model and 500 tokens per second for the 120 billion model. Now, just one concern that I have, since this is being released in 4-bit floating point precision, I'm not sure about the performance. We'll have to test it and see how good this is in actual coding tasks. So keep an eye out for that video. That's going to be out pretty soon. Anyways, I hope you found this video useful. Thanks for watching, and as always, see you in the next one.